How to negotiate the price on a single family real estate deal that is an off-market property. So let's just back up here, guys. Off-market, on-market, what are the differences? What does it mean? Off-market is simply not on the MLS, multiple listing services. This is where agents post properties for sale. They're represented by an agent. So if they're not represented by an agent, it's an off-market property. If they are represented by an agent on the MLS, then it's an on-market property. Now, there is some things called pocket listings where an agent takes a listing but agrees not to put it on the MLS, where they still would be represented, but that would be considered an off-market property, but they are represented. But that's a technicality that I don't think you're going to run into very often. So for those of you that are wondering, don't worry too much about that. Okay. Off-market properties are properties that are not listed on the multiple listing. So let's take a look here. What types of properties aren't listed on the multiple listing service? Well, there's several. These are categories of properties that I think that you should be aware of that are off-market properties. When we're dealing with off-market properties, we're looking for equity and we're looking for motivation. So we're talking about people that are in bankruptcy, or they have an involuntary lien, or an out-of-state owner, or pre-foreclosures, or it failed on the MLS, it was listed and now it's not. And we want to cross-reference that against people that actually have equity in their property. For example, the wholesale price, estimated equity on this is $582,000. So if that matched some of those criteria, this is a prospect that we should be looking at. That's kind of the background on this. But the real question is how do I negotiate with this seller? Well, you don't start negotiating with a seller until you understand their motivation. You have to understand why the seller is wanting to sell. You also need to understand that you have to have a relationship. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. So if you're in a hurry, if you're not willing to sit down, spend the time, get to know them, understand the property, understand the story, understand their why, and help them solve their problem. Really, it comes down to, before I'm talking price or anything else like that, before I market or go after this property, I want to make sure that there's equity and I want to make sure there's motivation. Now it's my job to understand their why and how I can solve their problem by them liking and trusting me so that I can help them make their real estate problem go away. Because at the end of the day, I'm a real estate problem solver, and whoever's the most creative and uses the most resources to solve problems usually is the one that ends up with the deal in the end. Okay, so we've established that. So typically what's going to happen is I'm going to call them, I'm going to email them, I'm going to text them, I'm going to send them a postcard, and somehow we're going to get in touch with each other. And I'm basically asking them, do you have any interest in selling your property? And if they do, I'm trying to understand what the motivation is there. They're going through a bankruptcy, they're going through a divorce, they're going through, they're moving out of state. This was a rental property that people trashed and they're just tired. They're a burnt out landlord, which is one of the categories that you can go after as well. Once I kind of understand that, the next thing that I want to do is I want to go to the property and meet them. And I want to go to the property because I want them to know, like, and trust me. When I go to the property, I am going to walk in and plop myself down in the front room and ask them all about themselves and who they are and what are they doing and where are they from and what teams they like. And I am going to get to know them. I am not going to get to business. I am going to get to the business of getting to know them and what they're doing and what they're trying and what their hopes are and their dreams and their problems and everything else like that. And I am going to spend as much time as necessary to do that, which could be several hours, guys. So I am getting to know them. Once I feel like I've got a really good rapport, we've got a relationship, I feel like they trust me, they know me, they like me, I like them, we've built some mutual bonds of things, some mutual relationships on things, we've found that one thing, maybe that has to do with cars or has to do with horses or has to do with a basketball team, but we found something that we both relate to. Now, a word on this. Don't be disingenuous. Disingenuousness does not work. So if you don't like basketball and they love basketball and you're trying to build a relationship on basketball, you're going to look like a fraud because you are. So you've got to find something that you're really interested in and something that they're interested in, Or you have to find something they're interested in that you know nothing about, but you are interested in. And with that, you're understanding it. Like, I know nothing about reloading ammunition and guns, but I've always wanted to learn. How does that work? How does it happen? How do you do this? How does it, whatever the case is. And so you're being inquisitive as to something they're already someone that is an expert in that subject or has a lot of knowledge in that subject, and you are saying, teach me what that's like. I want to know, I want to understand, so that you're genuinely interested. But if it's not genuine, it doesn't matter. So you're genuinely building a relationship. From there, I'm trying to understand what is going on with a property and what problem they really have. So why are you guys looking to sell? What's going on? Those types of things. And I'm trying to understand their deeper why. Now, I will tell you, this is like peeling an onion. Most people will not tell you why they want to sell right off the gates. You won't understand that real core unless you've built that relationship and keep asking why they would want to do that. Once we kind of get to that, the next thing that I like to do is I like to walk through the property with them. When I walk through the property with them, I like to point out some of the things that are happening with the property. So, for example, what's going on up there? Looks like there's been a leak. What's happened here? Tell me the story about this. So I want to point those things out, and I'm going to write those things down. Now, I want to be careful not to overwhelm them and make them feel like their house is a piece of crap, because this is house in most cases that they love, unless they're a landlord, and then they may feel like it's a piece of crap. If that's the case, I'm not noting all those things down so that we can understand and get an idea of the scope of work, but I'm doing that through the story of going through the property. Once I've done that and gone through the story of getting to know the property, I plop myself back down and I say, hey, what are you guys thinking? What do you want for this house? What if we could get you moved out in the next couple of months and this would work out? And what if you didn't have to do all these repairs? Lots of times when I go through property, they'll say, oh, we're going to fix that. 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 They're really not going to fix any of those things. And you say, hey, you know what? What if I just took the property the way that it is and let me make it even better? Just take the stuff you want. Don't worry about taking stuff to the DI or the homeless shelter or whatever the case is. Just take what you want and I'll take care of everything else, and I'll buy it as is, and I'll buy it on the day that you want, and there are no real estate commissions and those things. What would you be willing to sell it for? And that's where the negotiation begins, is we're saying, hey, this is what it would sell for. This is what they'd want for that. And then what I'm getting into is, how did you determine that number? Where did that number come from? Then I'm getting into, would you take any less if we did cash, if we closed right away, if we could do those things? So that's what I'm going to. But I want to get to where they are. Now, sometimes that number actually works for me, and before I've gone to the property, I have decided what's my maximum allowable offer that I can actually make on this property, and I know what that number is. So if that number is in the realm of what my number is, I'm going to say, hey, I think we can make that work. Here's a contract, sign it. This is what we'll do, and see if they want to move forward right then. If not, it's all about follow-up. Next. If that number is not there, but I know that they have the equity, then another way that I can do it is substantiate the value. One of the ways that I can do that is saying, hey, I'm an investor and I am investing to make money. I take on the risk, the market risk, the capital risk, all those things. I put a lot of money into it, repairing the property, the construction risk, and everything else like that. What do you think is a profit margin percentage that would be acceptable? Okay, so that's kind of interesting, because now we're not talking about dollars and cents. We're talking about what profit margin. And typically, general contractors are going to charge 10 to 15%. And so I say that, hey, typically a general contractor is going to charge 10 to 15%. Do you think that that would be acceptable? First, I want them to throw out the number. If they won't throw out the number, then I push them for this. Yeah, that would be acceptable. And say, okay, well, let me show you what this would take. So then what I do is I tell them, hey, this is what I think we can resell the property for. Resale. And here's a couple of comparables. Then I actually do my math. I say, okay, well, here's the purchase, or here's the repairs that are necessary. Here's the profit margin. Here's the title fees. Here's the hard money fees. Here's the interest. Here's this. Here's the agent fees. And all of a sudden, this is what I can pay for the property. That becomes very easy for them to follow that logic. Now, one thing you've got to be aware of is those repairs. One of the ways that I like to justify repairs is using like an Angie's List or a list service or something like that. Let me show you. Tools, sorry. Rehab calculator. So as you're going through the property, you can actually do this. Okay, so this is the property. Estimate new projects. Let's say this is a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and it's 2,500 square feet, 1 story. Okay. Single family, let's just, so what I can do is I can come in here and I can say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to remodel the bathroom. Okay. Continue that. And so this is going to give me an idea of the project costs and everything that's going to be. I can also just search by appliances. Okay, let's just come here and, well, let's actually do search by popular projects. Let's say that I'm going to replace the HVAC. Refresh, no, I need to replace. Let's just see here. HVAC, registers, ducts. I got to replace all the ducts, and I've got to do it in all these areas. And add that to the estimate. So that's going to give me an idea of what it's going to be costing me. Okay, so that's going to show me I'm about $4,251 for me to do the HVAC on that property. I am going to show the homeowner the contractor price of what most people would be paying, but I'm going to try and get it done for less than that. So I'm going to try and not only make some money through that profit margin, but I'm going to try and make some money by getting the repairs done for less money than what the retail price is. And I'm going to do that because I am going to have build or make relationships with general contractors. So I go through and I say, so the first plan of attack here is, what do you want? What does that look like? Does this solve your problem? If that's within my range, great. If not, I'm going through a logical approach of saying, what do you think is fair? Great. Let me show you all the numbers. Here's the comparables. This is how much I can pay for your property. And they say, hey, can you pay more? And I'm like, well, no. How would I pay more and make any money? I wouldn't make any money. So with these repairs, I also can do a list of repairs. The other place where it shows what the retail price is going to be on those repairs. And if we can agree on what needs to get done on the house, and we can agree on those pricing if we use a third-party vendor that tells us what those are, and we can agree on this profit margin, coming and determining what that price of the property needs to be becomes pretty easy. It's also the idea, this is more of a logical approach versus an emotional approach, which is the first approach that we typically take in understanding, hey, what do you need? How can we help you? What can we do? And what would you take for the property if we could make this whole thing go away? So 2 different approaches here, depending upon the person you're dealing with and depending upon if they're more of a left brain or more of a right brain person. But that's how you're going to be taking on the negotiations when you're dealing with an off-market property, is making the relationship, walking the property, determining the work that needs to be done to the property, then trying to make a deal with them based upon what they were hoping for. If not, it's moving towards trying to do something with the property with understanding the numbers and what the resale comps are going to be looking like. Another approach, depending upon the area and where you're looking at, is to use tax records. So when I go into the property, I've got all of these ready. I've got my tax records ready, so I know what the property's worth tax record-wise. I've got my lowest comparables ready, so I can show those. I've got what I think it's going to resell for, so I've got those. And then the repairs, one of the things that I can do is put a list together of like average cost of repairs for my contractor, for my TV contractor pricing. So I've got that ready, and we can go through and look at that while we're together, and some type of worksheet. So I've got multiple things depending. Start with phase 1, which is, hey, what would you like? What can we do after we've made the relationship? And then we move into the other phases as as appropriate that will make the deal happen for us. Now, here's one of the things that you can look at is with any of these properties tax information. This tax says the property's worth $192,000, okay? So one of the ways that you could say is, hey, you know, the property's worth $192,000 according to the tax records. Is that something that would work for you? Now, you only want to offer these solutions if they work for the numbers you have, because you've already determined what the highest price you can possibly pay for that property is. So you've got multiple ways of doing this, from asking them and trying to do that, from tax records to lowest comparables that have sold and using that, to what it really is going to sell for minus the costs, and determining what is a fair profit margin for you. And this is a win-win. I'm trying to help them, but in the same regards, we've got to make sure that it works for everybody. So this is the starting point and how you negotiate with somebody that is an off-market property. That said, you also need to make sure that you follow up, because people may not be ready to go exactly when you're ready to buy. And the key is the follow-up and maintaining that relationship if they aren't ready to do something today.